Okay, thank you for joining us on Beyond the Music with the Quad City Symphony. I am so delighted to have with us today a guest composer, Becky Burkhardt, who we're featuring on our upcoming Masterworks concert in March. Becky, thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. So on our fifth Masterworks of the year, we'll be featuring a world premiere, a cello concerto, written especially for our principal cellist, Hannah Holman, and written by you. So I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the piece, and we'll go from there.
The piece, Hannah had played a trio that I had written for her trio,
Hmm.
and she enjoyed my music. And she said, "I really like your voice. Would you consider a cello concerto?" And I
Hmm.
thought, well, that's huge, but I'll consider it. And I was still working at UNI at the time, and one thing led to another, and COVID happened. And then finally, a few years later, I finally wrote her and said, "Do you still think you want this cello concerto?" And she said, "I was just thinking about that." So that's how it all started. And we have been friends for several years. And I asked her about her life. I wanted it to be about her and her her where she was in her world, the places that she lived, and so that's where we started.
That's great. That's kind of a wonderful way to write music, I think, is to write for someone that means a lot to you, and to really live in their world. So, um, can you tell us a little bit? There's three movements, right? And they're each a different place important to Hannah. Do you mind maybe elaborating just a little bit
Sure,
on that?
absolutely. The She has lived and worked in several places in her life, but
Sure.
I first met her in Iowa when she was working at the University of Iowa. And then she's also lived as a child near the Detroit area. And she
Hmm.
currently works also at the New York City Ballet. So those three locales
Hmm.
had became the three movements. And um, the I used the sounds and the impressions of those places, sometimes musical sounds, sometimes environmental sounds, um, to indicate where we were in the world.
Hmm.
For example, uh, audience members can listen for perhaps the nature calls or the nature little reedy birds in the grass fields or the cornfields.
Hmm.
Um, in the first movement of the Iowa movement, or the really cold winters that we have in Iowa. Second movement is about Detroit, and so it includes some Motown references as well as sort of the factory, um, car factory essence sound.
Hmm.
It's probably the biggest and the most different in the world of concertos that I wrote. And then the last movement is about Manhattan and the trials and tribulations of living and performing in that world, and everything from the early Harlem Renaissance to what we're experiencing now. So people should listen for those little snippets of try to find the locales of those places, and then I tried to create structures that made sense musically for the orchestra and the player. So
Yeah, that's great.
that's yeah. There's also a little homage to Dvorak because the Dvorak cello concerto is one of the pinnacles of the concerti in the concerti world, and it's one of Hannah's favorites. And Dvorak did live in Iowa for a couple of summers, so there's a connection
Hmm.
there. So there's a little tiny homage to him in a couple of
That's great.
movements.
That's great because yeah, that cello concerto, of course, is meaningful to any cellist, I think, and Spillville, Iowa, if you know anything about Dvorak, is kind of a fun place to visit and learn some of that unique history. So, is there as you're thinking about our Quad Cities audience, is there any particular musical moment? I mean, you mentioned a few themes and moments. Is there one you think the audience really should lean into or get prepared for?
Well, the second movement is in two big parts, and they will hear
Detroit,
these.
right, is the second
Detroit,
one.
yeah. So it's the most, I think, the most interesting as far as the different kind of writing for this particular orchestra and cellist.
Mhm.
We have all the Motown snippets, little tunes that they might hear or little
Mhm.
themes, and they come out through it. But the second part is a real factory grind, is what,
Okay.
and it starts very low and ends very high. And I don't know where that came from in my world, but that's what composers do. They think up of something and then they try to make it happen. Um, the last movement, in the first part of the last movement, is really like a walk down a New York City street, hearing snippets of things coming out of different restaurants, bars, clubs,
Mhm.
and or the ballet, or the actual
Mhm.
New York City
Mhm.
ballet. If you're walking by and if the doors were actually open, you might be able to get that, But I think um, that's something to hang on to, I think. Yeah.
That's wonderful. I think that's a lot for the audience to like, oh, there's a lot of different things I can latch onto and connect with, and you're kind of painting an image or many images in a row, right? To
Yes.
try to tell the story of these places. So one thing that I'm a composer myself actually as well, and I find that one thing that's interesting when I talk to audience members is they have no idea how composers do what they do. And it seems like this mysterious like you're getting like messages from God or from some far off universe to create your music. I'd be really curious if you'd be willing to share a little bit about your process as you compose. Like how do you go about creating these wonderful scenes and imagery and music?
Well, first you have to start. That's the
Well,
hard
right.
part. You know, you have to sit down in the chair and think, and or at the piano and play and but as I said, I tried to create this around Hannah's life. So I had images that I wanted to portray. I guess
Mhm.
it becomes very programmatic in that way. So I had colors and images and ideas I wanted to portray within the form of the music. And how do I start? I I look at each movement or look at the scope of the piece if there are many movements and try to find the arc, the
Mhm.
beginning, the middle, and the end. How do I want it to end? How do I want it to start? What thoughts do I want to create? And then the to recreate, I guess. And then it just becomes a huge puzzle. And I've always said that it's just composing is just like a puzzle. And sometimes you have an idea of what it's supposed to sound like or look like the top of the puzzle box. And then you have to find all the pieces that fit in that in the right place to make that picture happen.
Mhm.
And we have, as composers, we have, or as all musicians, we have techniques at our disposal. We have instruments at our disposal. We have history at our disposal to look at and emulate or copy or all of the above.
Mhm.
And we get inspiration from lots of different things. And I think about things when I'm out walking and something will strike me and I'll think, oh, well, that would be a good idea. Or when I'm on the, on in the getting my hair cut or different
Right.
things for when you're quiet, things come to you. And what's the hardest part about being a composer or even a performing artist of any kind is that most of this happens in solitude. You're alone a lot. And
Mhm.
they see us on the stage and coming together and rehearsing, but there's so much writing and practicing and sweating and
Yeah.
fingers crossing to make all that happen. It's pretty much you're by yourself to do that. It's very solitary.
Yeah. And that's maybe an answer to the last question I had, which is what's one thing you wish people understood a little bit more about the life of a professional composer or maybe more broadly a professional musician?
Um, yeah, well, that's one. First of
Hmm.
all, it's it's hard work. It is hard work. We
Hmm.
actually do sit down and have an office and a piano and some paper
Hmm.
and pencil sometimes or a
Hmm.
computer. So it is work. The other thing is that it's like it's creating. So it really feeds us, and I get lost in it. It's like, oh.
Hmm.
I better eat something. It's been 6 hours, or I missed my appointment. I get so wrapped up in it. It's like
Yeah.
in a world that I only know in here, and as you know, we only know it in here until our friends realize it on the stage, and so it's it's hard work, but it's frustrating sometimes, but it's very
Yeah.
gratifying when you get to hear it
Yeah.
realized like you thought it was going to go. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's such a moment to hear your music being performed
Oh,
and then to experience the audience react to it and
yes. The
hopefully applaud
audience,
vigorously and
the audience is a very important
Mhm.
role, not role, but performance. They come and
They're a
perform
part of
as
it.
well.
They're a
We
part of it.
wouldn't be there if they weren't there doing their job as performers.
100%.
Right.
100%. And that's what we tell everybody. Like that is a unique, yeah, you can go, we're doing Beethoven Second Symphony paired with your piece, and you can go listen to many recordings of it, and I'm sure many of them are excellent. But you will never hear it the same way again.
No.
And then hopefully there are many recordings of your piece one day after it's out in the world, right?
Yeah.
But again, it's a completely unique experience, and we get to have the world premiere of your piece. So I'm really excited about that. Thank you for joining us on Beyond the Music. And
My pleasure.
yeah, yeah. So it's world premiere. So we're looking at March. What are we? March 7th and 8th. I think I got to make sure I have those dates right. The Adler Theater on Saturday and Centennial Hall on Sunday. Come to hear Ballet for Cello and Orchestra, featuring Hannah Holman and written by Becky Burkhardt. So thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Brian.